Hello. Welcome to Tammy's Table. This is Tammy Gaines, and I am so excited that you're here today. We get together every week and we get into the kitchen. If you think about when you were younger or in somebody's kitchen, for me, it takes me back to when I was younger. I used to sit at my grandparents' tables and my mom's table and other people's tables. And around the table, like magic happened. We were eating amazing food that we cooked together, which forms community. We were talking about stuff that we did not learn in school, that you only learn through life. And through that process, we all grew in one way or another. And that's what I wanted to capture with Tammy's Table. So happy that you're here. Want to remind you that we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. If you all have anything to say or you want to chime in, you could just send us a message and we'll answer in real time. And I am super excited to have my special guest for today, John Doscher, is on with me. You there, John?
Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. Shot out of a cannon today.
I could hear that.
Yeah, rise and shine. We're
Yeah.
all here. No, I'm just happy. I had a really restful holiday weekend. I just think we need to recharge every now and then, right, John?
Yeah. Well, listen, next time I'm on, it shouldn't be Monday at noon Eastern time
After
because
Easter.
I definitely didn't have time to recharge over the weekend because I'm just coming out of it now.
All right. Well, listen, we're gonna work through that.
Yes.
We're gonna work through that. So by way of introduction, I have known John since he was little because he is my youngest brother's best friend.
Yeah.
And have always known John to be a really transparent guy, very driven, uh, ridiculously sociable, which makes him a great networker. But what I think is so great about you, John, is that you're always in the process of self-improvement.
Hmm.
Um, which is why I think you bounce back so well from, some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. But this whole entire show is about teaching people how to become more resilient
Mm-hmm.
so that they grow through their challenges. They don't just go through them.
Right.
So I wanted to talk to you.
Well,
I mean,
Tammy, I have to say, in my case, I didn't have much of a choice. When you come from sort of a dysfunctional, broken home, right? That's part of your every. In my case, it was the art of survival. It was, you had to navigate at a very young age on, what's next and how to persevere. So there was no handbook. It was just, boots on the ground and get started. Every day was you didn't know what was coming around the corner, right?
well,
So,
give me a quick. I mean, I wasn't in your home. You were my little brother's friend
mhm.
at that point. But like, what was? I mean, I could tell you, I grew up in a dysfunctional home, but everybody's dysfunction is a little bit different. So,
that's
what was your dysfunction?
that's actually that's relative. It's funny that the my best friend Matt Grossman, also would say his home was ultra dysfunctional. uh, and mine was at another level where I would actually choose to spend the holidays at the Grossman house.
Oh
So,
boy.
so close people in our circles would find that quite alarming.
Yeah. Although I'm not telling any family secrets. My friends called my mom Darth Vader.
But even though their house was sort of wildly unpredictable on a minute to minute basis, there was always love in that house somehow in an unconventional form,
Hmm.
and so I always felt I had a place to go when it was dark over at my home.
So let me ask you a question. This I should be asking you at the end of the show, but now I'm just curious. Like, can you give me like three skills that you developed when you were a child to be resilient against whatever crazy was going on in your house?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would say initially, well, there was not only was it dysfunctional, but it was coupled with violence.
Yeah.
So my look, To cut the story short, in this particular case, I was a young uncle. Okay, so let's talk about a skill set developed on the fly. I was sent to California with family while my sister at 16 had a baby.
Oh my God, I
Uh,
didn't know that.
which in 1980 wasn't, overly common, especially in Woodcliff Lake, Disney-esque Bergen County, right? And so when I came home,
Hey, John,
yeah.
I want to level set for the audience real quick where we grew up.
Oh,
We grew up in one of the wealthiest counties. I think the wealthiest county in New Jersey,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
Lily White, up to lots of CEOs, lots
yeah,
of famous people live there. So yeah,
yeah.
we didn't grow up like, in some rural farm somewhere.
Right. Point taken, and it's probably more privileged now, than when you and I were there in the 70s and 80s, because it was, it had more of a mix of classes, I think, back then, because,
Yeah.
it was attainable for the middle class to actually sustain a life in Bergen County. My father, just to go slightly off track, was a third generation iron worker, and my mom was a nurse, right? So, and we lived in a brand new home with 2 cars and vacationed. Our neighbor literally next door was a doctor, the other one was a dentist. But today an iron worker would be living maybe outside Bergen County in an
Hmm.
apartment, sharing a
Hmm.
car, and not vacationing at all,
Yeah.
probably, right?
Yeah. I didn't know that about your parents. That's awesome. All right, so go back. So your sister was 16.
More importantly about the dysfunction, John.
No, I'm just saying I totally cut you off so people had a
So,
perspective.
so
But
Tammy, look, you're second oldest out of the 4 of you guys, right?
yeah.
So let's say, because you're only 2 years younger than my older sister, you probably don't remember, or she was actually 3 years older. You probably don't remember because she wasn't in school because she was home having a baby.
Wow.
But
But she would
imagine
be my brother's age, my older brother. They were
that.
in the same class.
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. That's correct. And that's why, picture this: if Daryl or Derek, if you do the math, let's say it's more like Derek. And
Like he's
I,
more likely. Is that what you're saying?
well, I'm saying in the age gap, if he goes away to sports camp, say
Hmm.
baseball camp, and he comes home and his room was converted into a nursery.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
what I had. So, I didn't get the memo. It was just, I come home, and my room had a crib in it, literally, right? And a small baby. And so you acclimate to that. You sit down at dinner and say, "Oh wow, it's been an eventful summer," right? Past the macaroni.
Mm.
Uh, but I have to say, part of one of the films I'm working on is loosely related to that. I'll say this, when you have a small child or a newborn baby in a household that's on the fringe of a divorce, right? So my mother and father were having an upcoming divorce, and you enter in the small child during the holidays. There's certainly things that are fixed in my mind, like going to Paramus Park, New Jersey, getting an ornament engraved and handing it, to my sister for my nephew Brendan. So I'm a 9-year-old uncle
Mm.
hanging an ornament on a Christmas tree, 1980 Merry Christmas, Brendan, Uncle Johnny. But
Hmm.
by the time the tree came down, he had already been placed for adoption and then brought back home because of the window my sister had. And unfortunately, my mother enabled that, right? So everything was solidified and put together, and it was a catastrophic day for our family. My sister brought the child to the new family that
Hmm.
had adopted Brendan,
Hmm.
and my sister's 16 and had a complete meltdown. And by the time my father came home from work and I came back from school the following day, the baby was back in our home. And so that added another dynamic. And ultimately, by the time the tree came down, he was placed again for a second time, right? And so when the tree did come down, I took that ornament off the tree. and it had always been in a sentimental space. And every year I'd put it on the tree, and I ultimately move out, and I kept that ornament and put it on my tree as an adult through life. And 10 years later, my sister calls me and says, "Come down here. Brendan's here." And so Brendan had reached out to my sister, as she did simultaneously with the agency. And unique, in an extremely unique circumstance, there he was. And I grabbed that ornament. Now the child was 18, and hooked up with he and my sister and my other sister, and handed him that ornament. It was this full circle sort of rosebud moment, and quite a unique situation there. He ultimately did move in with my sister, and she helped him a little bit in his sort of early adult stages.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a million questions about that, which we did. So now, yeah, we need to like do this again. But
Yeah.
um,
But I have to
what was
say,
the
Tammy,
one?
because we were going to talk about today my adversity and the
I'm gonna get.
resiliency I had to have to prepare myself for also getting divorced and being a single father in
Yeah,
the entertainment business.
hold on, John. Hold on.
But I had
Getting ahead of yourself.
I had the internship
Wait,
right
wait, wait,
there.
wait. Talk to me about. My original question. What's the one skill that you feel like you developed out of that particular experience?
Oh, I would have to, it's not, I would say, decompartmentalizing and sort of just, turning the page and capitalizing on the next opportunity in front of me, you know?
So I have found. Tell me what you think about this. I have found that I have an extraordinary ability to compartmentalize
Hmm.
everything
Right.
because I told you about the twins. Like when they call you and say like you got to get to the hospital, we don't think he's gonna make it. Like we start to compartmentalize like a whole bunch of things.
Right. Right.
But I think that's a really good skill and also a really bad skill.
Hmm.
Like it's for me, it's been like bad in relationships that I could put my emotions in a box very quickly.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you think?
Well, it was sort of, there was a lot of fear and you sort of numb. I was also exposed to violence. When you see that in a young age, and violence in the household, you just sort of, you definitely have to pivot and sort of
Mm,
protect yourself in a way,
right.
emotionally, and not something not certainly a skill set you're probably born with,
It's
or
like
or
it's like
yeah,
survival, like naked and afraid.
yeah, like the art of survival, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
You find a way to deal with it, and it was a different time, obviously, back then, and you kind of, today, I probably would have had more structure from an outside influence than just sort of going outside and playing wiffle ball and working through it back then.
Yeah. Wow, John. That like I'm just like you talk about violence in the household. I'm like, does getting spanked every day count as violence? I'm not really sure.
You know, I have to say, Tammy, and I haven't had enough rest for this little sit down, but I will say, um, there's the verbal abuse could be as debilitating or more so, and more abusive than the physical abuse. We had
Yeah,
all three. We had the emotional,
so did I.
the psychological, the verbal, and the physical, which is the hat trick
Yeah,
plus.
I had
You
I
know.
had all of that. We had the Stanley Cup. Listen, John, let's get back to it after this quick break. We'll be right back.
Breaks are for wimps, Tammy. Come on.
Oh, damn.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame. Living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Hey, welcome back to Tammy's Table. This is Tammy Gaines. I am so excited to be here with my absolutely crazy guest, John Doscher.
The beautiful Tammy Gaines, for sure, inside and out.
Thank you. John, we went to break with you saying that breaks are for wimps.
Well, listen,
But wait.
yeah.
I love that because I get you. Like when you've gone through something you never thought you'd get through,
Yeah.
like little things in life just become like, seriously, you can't get past that. People don't complain to me because I mostly look at them sideways like, you're complaining about that?
I know.
All
Well,
right.
look, that's an homage to the great Oliver Stone and Michael Douglas in the picture Wall Street, right? The great line, "Lunch is for wimps."
Yeah.
So I did a little improvise there, but come on, Oliver Stone.
All
I got to fit Oliver in on a Monday.
You can take Oliver. I'll take him.
Yeah.
All right. So honestly, John, I want to talk to you more about your childhood, and we're gonna be back on together. But I wanted to fast forward to your adult life.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering. Well, first of all, tell us the short story about how you ended up being a single dad of 3 daughters, which I think is so amazing and fascinating.
Well, to my knowledge, it's 1 daughter and 2 sons, but don't rule out
Oh,
I
my
could
bad,
have
my bad, my bad,
I
my bad. I'm
I
so
could have
sorry.
2 I could have 2 other daughters that could be named later. I may find out after the show is released.
Yeah, somebody sent me an email about your paternity test, so I didn't mean to like reveal that on the show.
I always had a lot of love to give, and I'm an equal opportunist.
So go ahead. You're a single dad, 3 amazing kids. I've had the chance to, meet one of them and spend some time. She's extraordinary. But talk to me
Yes.
about how did that happen? And do you think it's like some throwback from your childhood somehow?
Oh, it's all tied into it. First of all, I never wanted to be married or have children ever. And
Well, that
I,
went sideways.
yeah, well, it's the way we're going to get at it. I didn't like kids. Ultimately, my sister Trish did have a child that she kept, and I didn't care for her either. I thought she didn't have a filter. I would go to my sister's house. This is my sister who had the baby. I would go to her house, say on a holiday, and there's my 5-year-old niece. I thought she was a snotty brat. She would drop insults. I said, "Man, I don't like kids." I'm moving off of that. However, I met an interesting woman who consumed me and said, "Look, I'm not playing house anymore after 5 years. The lease is up. We're getting married. We're buying a house, and you're having children." I said, "Yeah, but no." And she gave me an ultimatum, and I wanted to stay with her. So while scuba diving in Grand Cayman, I proposed underwater. Of course, we had cameras there, and I did edit it to music later. So
Oh,
that's
so
how
sweet.
that's how that started. And then once married, I remember you remember Greg Solcher from Pascack Hills,
Yeah, I remember him.
the great Greg Solcher. I was at his barbecue over the summer, 4th of July. He and his wife. And there was a child on the front lawn hitting wiffle balls over the hedges. And I was just pitching to him with a cocktail in hand, and I just couldn't get away from him. And I spent most of the party throwing batting practice to, Bam Bam as he was knocking balls over the hedges. And I went home and said, "Let's have a child."
Mm.
That's how that started.
Okay. And then how did it unwind?
And then we had Magoo, my first and only daughter.
Uh-huh.
And Magoo was because, as I mentioned to you before, when she was delivered, her eyes were closed and she was bald and she looked like Mr. Magoo. And now she has her own Magoo.us, which is her sort of emulating Miss Gwyneth Paltrow's sort of Goop project, right? So Magoo, like you said, is just
She's extraordinary.
heightened with talent. Yeah.
She's amazing.
But yeah, listen, Tammy, the that household certainly had prepared me for real life at an earlier age than probably most of our contemporaries in Hillsdale and Woodcliff Lake.
Right.
You know.
Yep.
So,
um
and
how did
and
you
but
the part of that I'm interested in all of it, but you told me something that like blew my mind. Like, how did you end up with custody of the kids?
Yeah, man.
Which is so rare. Like, I'm in New
Yeah.
Jersey. I got 4 kids. I'm divorced.
Right.
Like, it's very rare that the dad gets custody.
Yeah, well, check it out, Tam. So I have Henry and then Ben, 2 and 3 years later. So they're 5 years apart from Hannah to Ben, with Henry in the middle. And he totally whips out the middle victim child card. That's for another discussion. But, one thing that comes to mind when we talk about resiliency is, if you're going to get divorced as a man and a father in Bergen County, don't do it. Here's how it is. It's sexist against men in Bergen County, down Hackensack, New Jersey. As a father, okay, you come out of the gate, you're down 48-0 before kickoff. Every morning I woke up, it was 48-0 for about 5 years, to overcome the corrupt judicial system, the flawed judicial system. The judges down there are failed attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't believe the level of corruption with these family court, low-level, bottom-feeding attorneys, and how they cripple families and children. Thank God, Tammy Gaines, that at the time of my divorce, and by the way, you'll believe in God when you hear what I had to go through, okay, and having faith in order to get through it, okay, of some kind, because it was imperative.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is, down Hackensack, okay, you come in there, and it, regardless of the condition of the mother, okay, she could be offering her body on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And the father is the underdog, and he's got to fight. If she wants to pursue sole custody and have control over the children and their education and everything else, and there's a blank check behind it, you have to go. You have to show up. And thank God, at the time of my divorce, that, and my custody battle that did run 5 years, that I had cash flow at probably the most cash flow I've had at any time in my life. It happened to be there at that time. I was self-employed. I had my own companies. I had staff. I had interns. I had family and friends all rallying behind me. And even that, and I can take a punch, and I'm resourceful. And even with all of that at my back, I still, by the skin of my ass, got through that process. And my point is, if you're a conventional person and you punch the clock with a 9-to-5 guy, you don't have a chance down there. You don't have a chance. Ultimately, you will lose your job, and you'll drink yourself to death, and you'll lose your hair and everything else. That system will break a man and destroy the family, and the kids are the ones that suffer. And ultimately, that's what happens down in Hackensack. I think since then, which was 10 years ago for me, they've made some adjustments, because they were just, that system was a cash machine. If you went down Hackensack, they built a whole new building, okay, with the monies and the fees that those attorneys and corrupt judges and everyone down there feeding off broken homes made a mint. And it's really deplorable. And I have to say this, in fact, our great friend Johnny Heitner from the great Heitner family, Dave and Caroline,
Mm-hmm.
the late
Love those
David,
guys.
what a great family.
Love those guys.
And Dr. Johnny Heitner said to me, he says, geez, John, what you've gone through, you need to write a book. And I said, I'm going to start a charity one day, because I had at least a lot of support, and I was fortunate to have the cash flow to fight it. And the fortitude from my upbringing. Want to talk about whatever it is, resiliency, integrity, toughness, resourcefulness, talent, all together. And I still, with a lot, and look, this isn't about, I'm not a religious person, but I certainly believe in a higher power, because it is real. Everything they tried to do to me, those judges, and everything that the adversary, the corrupt system down there tried to do to me, they enabled my ex-wife to try to do to me, and run me out of town, take the kids away from me, destroy my business, destroy my reputation. Everything they did, Tammy, had an adverse effect and happened to their side. And that's because I put my kids first and what was in their best interest. And that was a balanced life, to be able to have their father in their life when they're 7 years old. Okay. And without a higher power listening to me and the intent and what was best for the children, they would not have had the proper balance to be who they are today. Facts.
Love it. Oh my God. You got to come on again, because I have a million things to ask you about, but let's talk about this thing. I have a quick story, and I'm having a hard time. I'm being honest. I have empathy for you because you were a great dad.
Yes.
But when I was in divorce court, my ex was, let me just say this. He wasn't showing up the way he should have.
But at one point, I have to interject, because you just brought up a great point.
Wait,
I have to say one thing.
I was gonna tell you a quick story just to like.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, here's the quick story, and then we're gonna go break. You ready for this?
Go ahead.
So we basically got divorced because I became unexpectedly pregnant with twins, and he gave me an ultimatum, and I chose the twins, and that it all like went crazy. But at one point, my son Trey was having surgery, and I ended up sleeping. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I ended up sleeping at the hospital overnight because he was having surgery at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was in sweatpants and a hoodie. And my lawyer called and he was like, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the hospital." He was like, "You're supposed to be in court."
Yeah.
So I totally forgot. And I was like, "I got to go home and shower and change." And he was like, "You don't have time. Like, just come." Because now the judge is mad that you're late. So I'm going to make this like super short. I got to court. I was in sweatpants and a hoodie. I hadn't slept all night. I literally looked a hot mess. And my ex and his lawyer started to present me as a drug addict, as an alcoholic. Like, look at how she's dressed. And it was too much for me to bear. And I literally got taken over. You talk about a higher power. Some voice talked to me in my head, and I said, "You know what, Your Honor? He can have the kids, all 4 of them. I'm done. I'm done with this." And then the judge freaked out. My lawyer freaked out. They were like, "Let's take a break." Like, he was literally painting me like in a way that I couldn't possibly imagine. Because the way I looked is because I was in the hospital overnight where he hadn't been in weeks to go see the twins. So I generally feel like there are, first of all, we need to talk again about the whole like men thing, because you were painted poorly and you didn't deserve it. I was painted poorly and I didn't deserve it. So to what extent do we have to go to get the other one? Like, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. And you know what, Tammy, the other piece is you and I should have had children.
Oh, Jesus. Well,
And
I have enough kids. My hands are full. I love my children. You got, look, we have 7 kids between us, I think.
well, let's listen.
We just need to find 2 more. We need to find them so we can have a baseball team.
Everything's possible.
All right, let's go to break, you lunatic. We'll be back in just a minute.
6 years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Hey, welcome back to Tammy's Table. We are all about using basically the table to talk about how to become resilient. How do we grow through our challenges in a way that's super fun and actionable? And I'm on with my very, very dear friend, John Doscher. John, I want to pick up with some really specific things. And I know we have a lot to talk about, but I am going to nail you right now
Ooh.
to the wall to say, I asked you this question like 30 minutes ago. Give me 3 skills that you think you've learned that have helped you navigate the stuff from your childhood, navigate your crazy divorce. Yeah, talk to me. Tell me.
Well, Tammy, listen. As you can hear, I'm not a corporate structured
I
person.
didn't ask you for corporate. I just asked you for some skills. Like,
So
what are you
stop with this.
really
Stop
good
with
at?
this such
Oh,
formal
Lord have
questions,
mercy.
Tammy. Okay, we're gonna be
This is
cerebral. It's a
this
Monday.
is not formal. This is like, yo, man, answer my question.
This is, come on, man. I was celebrating excessively. It was Easter. I had Hannah Magoo and Ben and my kids here, and I'm still in Easter excessive behavior mode here. But go ahead. Yes. The
All
second
right,
skill
listen,
set.
I'm gonna spoon feed you because I know you're not feeling well. I'm gonna spoon
Go
feed you.
ahead.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Tell me one skill
Mhm.
that you feel like you are like the master of because of what you've experienced. Like,
Well,
what's your superpower?
well, of course, manipulation. I
Oh,
mean,
gee.
I had to take that. Well, look, finding a sense of humor and everything,
Yeah,
that came naturally to me because,
me too.
what? Because why the heck not? You have everything to gain, and it's laughter is the ultimate medicine. I don't care what anybody says, and growing up and taking that at a young age, and with your brothers, Derek and Daryl, man. They were like me too. I mean, we would just see each other in the hall and just start laughing.
Yeah, they're funny as hell. But
You
yeah,
know,
you know what? That's like solid, John, which I don't think we talk about enough. Like when people are facing an impossible situation, I think
yeah,
having a sense of humor might be the most important thing. Like, I can't make this up. Like, what's
yeah,
happening right now, I can't make up, which is, I love it.
yeah.
I love it. Nobody talks
And,
about that.
and look, and Daryl and Derek were in on the joke. And look, they had their adversity too, man. We know that. And here we are. I played ball with them through school and pickup games too. I mean, they'll tell you I ran the option and I was an option QB with your brothers in the backfield. And we had a ton of fun. We still laugh about it today. But it was almost like, yeah, being in on the joke. There was, it was a good time, to just kind of not take everything too seriously and but not necessarily at other people's expense, right?
No,
It
no,
was,
no. It's like life is the joke.
yeah, yeah,
Like God, you know what? My ex-mother-in-law, I don't know what you call her, an outlaw.
yeah,
She said something to me that was like so deep. At one point, she said, whatever, something was not going right. And she said, you know what, Tammy? Man plans and God laughs.
yeah. Yeah, so that was a natural skill set that I honed in on quite early.
Okay. What else? What
That
else you
goes,
got? What else you got?
well, we have manipulation, and I kind of laughed it off, but manipulation's not necessarily a bad thing if you use it entrepreneurially in business to help people help see their goals too. That's part of the film business. You can call it influence but it's surrounding
Well,
yourself with it's
well, let's,
surrounding your
is it influence or is it manipulation? Because those are two different things, and
well
manipulation feels really bad.
well, it's a fine line. Look, the motion picture industry is the hardest industry in the world. I come from a contracting background, a magazine publishing background. When you get into movies, it makes every other business seem like sort of a hobby. You're talking about making the illusion real, and involves a lot of different people and different types of personalities, and so you have to find a way, right, to lead and have people with a similar passion and vision to come on your float and sort of bring it to fruition, and it's a tall order. So
So
you know
do you think we could expand that particular skill to talk about more broadly? I'm not doing corporate, so get off me. This is
yeah, please,
to you.
please.
Isn't it like fundamentally, I think part of becoming really resilient is being able to be a great communicator,
It
right?
might,
So you
yeah,
can
yeah,
communicate like your
yeah,
needs, your wants, you could defend
yeah,
yourself,
yeah,
you can talk your way out of a situation if necessary.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's what it is. It's a bigger umbrella of communication,
You
not
know
just
what?
like manipulation.
You are on your game
Go
and
ahead, bring it.
mentally strong today. I'm
Damn
digging that.
straight. Yep.
I'm getting a little reverb on the sound there. How's that? Are you getting the same on the
No,
back?
you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
You know what? Man, wow.
What happened? Did you forget what I just said? Communication.
No,
Communication is the umbrella, not manipulation.
no. I was just taking it in. I'm saying to myself, well, storytelling, So
Right,
for
right.
so for me, my father, part of my experience of being a son, with my father was, and from a divorced family, was on the weekends I would have time with my father, and we would just go to the movies. And he brought, and stay in the shot with me. There's a point here, and I'm going to answer your question. Okay, Miss Corporate America, stay with me.
I'm not corporate. Jesus, get off me.
Okay, stay
Ooh,
there. Stay in the shot,
I'm
Gaines.
right here. I'm right here.
Stay in the shot. So when my friends were going to the movies with their parents, they went and they saw Indiana Jones and E.T. My father brought me to see Raging Bull and The Shining.
Oh,
and
damn.
and and so when you come home and your father's sort of out of work, and it's the winter, and he's outside and it's snowing and he's cutting firewood, and I'm watching The Shining, which is now on cable on continuous loop in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And my father has got, a little scruffy, he's got the flannel shirt. I'm like, wow, is his life imitating art? My father's Jack Torrance and in The Shining. So storytelling was introduced to me at an early age. I always, like you said, communicating to me is storytelling. If you're going to present something, there's a beginning, middle, and end,
Mm-hmm.
typically. And I've been told that I have a knack for it. So that could have been a skill set I picked up throughout all this adversity as well.
That's so awesome, John. That's so awesome because I think you're exactly right. Like, I tell great stories. Daryl, like all of my brothers tell amazing stories. Like, besides the fact that we're, African American, which I think storytelling is like in our blood.
Right.
But that is a lot of how we communicate it, how we were feeling or what we were experiencing was by telling stories.
Yeah.
So that is a really interesting point.
Yeah. Well, listen, you want something? I'm going to jam it down your throat, Tammy. Okay.
All right. You're so dumb. Okay. So let's talk about, now we're like, we don't have like another 5 hours to listen to your rambling. So try and stay focused.
Oh boy.
How has your resilient skills helped you in your ascension from, a guy from Pascack Hills to a guy that's like, a player in Hollywood?
Well,
By the way, we have like just a few minutes, and
by the way,
I'm gonna have you back to keep talking about.
you know what? Honestly, I'm not patronizing you. I would never do that. Your questions are just killer, stellar, very interesting. And here's the answer to that one. Pascack Hills was Hollywood. It was the perfect, especially during that time when I entered that school in '85. What a interesting time. When you look at all those great movies, The Breakfast Club and Howard Hughes's films, and 16 Candles and everything else. Really living it was more glorifying than seeing those movies. They really were. And I know you've had your opinions, but for me, Pascack Hills was an outlet. It was easy. It was fun. I was out of my house. I had somewhere to go that was, and have fun. I looked at it for a form of entertainment. And we had so many talented people, particularly in our class, that I made home movies with Rick Hurwitz and Bruce Redman, and geez, we were in drama class together, and it was who was going to outdo who next. It was sort of like a breeding ground, and it really, humor was at the catalyst of it. It was who's going to outdo the next guy and make everyone hit the floor with something hysterical. And that was Phil Bernardi's drama class, making home movies, just parties. I look at my kids today, and I tell them stories of what we had back then, and they're super jealous of the lifestyle and opportunities socially we had. There were cliques or whatever, but everyone generally got along. We didn't have these friend groups, as they like to, they like to tailor and classify themselves as. Raising my kids here in Ridgewood, even though I'm back and forth to Hollywood, these kids are just, a lot of these kids are awful people. And out straight, to be straight, Tammy, a lot of these fucking kids aren't even allowed in my house. They're banned. I don't want them in my house.
Okay, I'll be honest. I've only banned one kid ever from my house because she was a lunatic. She was crying because she got caught. She got tagged in hide and seek.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? You better call your mother and get out of here. We don't do it like that here.
Yeah.
But John, it's so interesting. I never thought about our high school that way.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
It was like maybe a training ground for what I ended up becoming.
Yeah, totally.
Right? I was so busy trying to get out. I just wanted to get out and get out of my house. Like I literally was like, how early can I leave for college? That was my only goal, was to get the hell out of my house.
Yeah. Well,
which is what motivated like my grades. I played, by the way, to your point, which is interesting, I played sports, I was in clubs, I did all that because it meant I didn't have to be home.
Yeah, right.
What if we were all like
that?
Not
only that, you had great teachers back then. Not, it's different now. Teachers today are struggling just for groceries. Back then, teachers could make a strong living, comparably to the economy and everyone else. A teacher would live next to an iron worker, next to a New York Yankees second baseman, literally.
Yeah.
The American dream was more attainable back then. So teachers were also looked up upon in the community as regal people, and it was a different community, right? So you had that. You had these extraordinary people that were leading us. You had the parents were also parenting differently, and it formed a good way of competition. You didn't get a pat on the ass because you tried. You got an accolade because you won, and you were and that was it. It was a true accolade, and there you were. And then you wanted to be around those people. So the game and the bar was raised. Okay?
Well, the game is just different now. But John, let me ask you, because we got to come in for a landing here. Can you come back next Monday?
Listen, Tammy, it's like this. Cash is king, but money screams.
I have no idea what that means.
Of course.
Are you asking to get paid? Is that what you're asking for? I'll cash app you $1.
Oh, yeah. No, listen,
No,
man.
seriously, I want you to come back because we have so much to talk about.
Listen, we should just be on a full continuous loop.
I got it.
And I
I'm
think
down.
we start charging people, by the minute, and we'll have some fun together.
Yeah, and we could bring in some other people into our crazy to hear what they have to say. I'm totally down.
As long as it's mainly about me, I'm into it.
Okay, we'll see what we could do. But listen, I want to thank you, John, for being transparent and hilarious. And the guy that I love so much. Like, I just love your heart and I love your spirit.
Sweet.
And please be sure to go to TAMI'S.com. Be sure to check back every Monday at noon where we do Tammy's Table. We're basically back in the kitchen from when you were little, talking about real stuff, real issues, and coming up with real solutions. So thank you so much and have a fantastic week, everyone.
Oh, I love you, Tammy. Love you, Brian.
Love you too.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.